I am still riding the absolute high of watching a moving truck pull out of my driveway earlier this morning. It's been a grueling, stressful 6 months, but the dust has finally settled, and I am currently sitting in the master bedroom of a gorgeous, historical 5-bedroom home in a prime neighborhood. A home that is 100% mine. To understand how I got here, you need a little bit of backstory. When I was 15, my mother passed away. It devastated my dad and me. My maternal grandparents, who were incredibly wealthy and had built a massively successful real estate portfolio, wanted to ensure I was always taken care of. They owned a stunning historic property worth roughly $2.5 million today. Instead of selling it, they placed it into a rock-solid ironclad trust when I turned 18. The terms were simple. My dad had a life estate to live in the house. The deed, the ownership, and the ultimate control belonged solely to me. My dad was responsible for the property taxes and maintenance. Under no circumstances could the house be sold, mortgaged, or transferred to anyone else. Enter Brenda. My dad met Brenda about 4 years ago, and they married 2 years later. Brenda came with 2 teenage kids from a previous marriage, now 17-year-old daughter and 19-year-old son. From day one, Brenda gave off major gold digger vibes, but my dad was lonely and blinded by love. When she moved into the house, she immediately started acting like she owned the place. She remodeled the kitchen without asking me. My dad paid for it, threw away my late mother's custom drapes, and relegated me to the smallest bedroom over the garage. I tolerated it because I was away at college most of the year, and just wanted my dad to be happy. The family meeting. Tragically, 6 months ago, my dad suffered a massive heart attack and passed away. I was broken. But while I was mourning the loss of my father, Brenda was already calculating. Literally 3 days after the funeral, before my dad's estate was even probated, Brenda called a family meeting at the dining table. She sat me down, flanked by her 2 kids, and handed me a piece of paper. It was a mock lease agreement. Brenda, now that your father is gone, the expenses for this house are falling entirely on me. If you want to keep living here while you finish your degree, you need to start pulling your weight. Rent is $1,200 a month. Starting the 1st of next month. I looked at the paper, then at her. Her son was smirking, and her daughter was scrolling on her phone. Me, you want me to pay rent to live in my own house? Brenda, this is my husband's house, which makes it my family home. You're an adult now, and I won't have a freeloader taking up space. Either pay the $1,200, or you can pack your things and find an apartment. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just smiled, took the piece of paper and said, "Let me think about it." The trap is sprung. See, Brenda didn't know about the trust. My dad, bless his heart, always hated talking about money, and had vaguely told Brenda that the house was handled in a family trust. Brenda assumed that meant my dad owned it, and it would pass to her as his surviving spouse. She had no idea that the second my father's heart stopped, his life estate terminated, and I became the absolute sole owner of the property. The next morning, I went straight to my estate attorney, who also happens to manage my grandparents' trust. I handed him the lease Brenda gave me. I have never seen an older, distinguished lawyer laugh so hard in my entire life. He pulled up the deed, the trust documents, and drafted a very formal, very terrifying legal notice. 2 days later, a process server knocked on the front door and handed Brenda a thick envelope. It wasn't a lease agreement. It was an official notice to quit and demand for possession. Essentially, you do not own this house. You have no legal right to be here. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. The nuclear fallout and financial greed. The explosion was nuclear. Brenda stormed up to my room over the garage, screaming so loud the neighbors probably heard it. She called me an ungrateful, entitled brat, a monster who was trying to put a grieving widow and her children on the street, and swore her lawyers would take everything I had. I calmly told her that she was welcome to contact her lawyers, but she needed to be out in 30 days. While she was busy screaming at me, Brenda was also trying to frozen out my dad's bank accounts. She didn't realize my dad and I shared a joint account for house maintenance that she couldn't touch. When she found out my dad's actual personal estate, aside from his modest life insurance policy, consisted mostly of a heavily financed truck and a modest savings account, she completely lost her mind. She realized her grand retirement plan in a $2.5 million mansion had evaporated overnight. Instead of looking for a new place, Brenda spent those 30 days trying to play dirty. She went on a massive smear campaign, calling my extended family on my dad's side, crying about how I was throwing her out in the snow. My aunt actually called me furious until I explained the situation and emailed her a copy of the trust agreement. Once the family realized Brenda had tried to extort rent out of me for my own inheritance, 3 days after my dad died, the support for her vanished instantly. My aunt even called her back to tell her she was lucky I wasn't charging her back rent for the days she stayed after his passing. Catching them red-handed. When the smear campaign failed, Brenda tried to destroy the house. I had a feeling she might try something, so I had subtly installed a few discreet, Wi-Fi-enabled security cameras in the common areas the week before. Good thing I did. One afternoon while I was out, my phone alerted me to movement. I opened the app to see Brenda's 19-year-old son holding a hammer, staring at a drywall alcove, while Brenda explicitly told him, if we have to leave, he's going to spend a fortune fixing it. I immediately called my lawyer, who called the local police department. 2 cruisers showed up within 10 minutes. Because I had the live video feed proving intent to commit criminal mischief, the officers formally trespassed the son from the property on the spot. He was forced to leave that afternoon, with nothing but a duffel bag, leaving Brenda and her daughter short-handed and utterly terrified of what I'd do next. See you in court. Naturally, Brenda still didn't leave by the final deadline. She honestly thought she could bluff her way through the legal system, likely hoping a judge would take pity on a widow. So the moment the 30 days were up, my attorney filed a formal eviction lawsuit. Because Brenda had 0 legal standing, no lease, and absolutely no ownership stake, the court date was a total slaughter. Brenda showed up to court with a cheap strip mall lawyer she clearly couldn't afford, who looked like he regretted taking the case the moment he saw my attorney. Her lawyer tried to argue that she had marital rights to the property, that it was the primary marital residence, and that evicting her would cause undue hardship. My attorney simply stood up, handed the judge the certified copies of the deed, the trust paperwork from 5 years ago, and my dad's death certificate. The judge looked at Brenda's lawyer and asked, "Does your client have any documentation proving ownership or a valid lease signed by the actual property owner? You, Gold Standard 99. The lawyer muttered, "No, Your Honor." The judge signed the eviction order right then and there, granting me immediate possession and giving Brenda a strict 72-hour deadline to get out, enforced by the county sheriff. The judge also sternly warned Brenda that any damage found on the property upon her departure would result in immediate criminal charges, courtesy of the police report from the hammer incident. The eviction day closure. That brings us to this week. Brenda spent the last few days frantically packing her life into boxes, crying to anyone who would listen about how evil her late husband's son is. Her golden child son tried to show up again to help her load the truck, but the moment his foot touched the driveway, I dialed the non-emergency police line. A quick reminder that he was legally trespassed and would be arrested on site made him sprint back to his car and peel out. This morning the moving truck arrived for the final load. I stood on the front porch, sipping a cup of coffee, watching them load up the last of their furniture. As Brenda walked past me to get into her car, she glared at me with pure hatred. "Brenda, I hope you're happy. You've ruined our lives. We have to move into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment because of you." Me. "Well, Brenda, look on the bright side. I hear rent is only $1,200 a month." She slammed her car door and peeled out of the driveway. The locks have already been changed. A premium security system is being installed as I type this. And I hired a deep cleaning crew to scrub every inch of the entitlement out of this place. Best of all, while checking the attic to make sure they hadn't left any trash, I found my late mother's custom drapes hidden away in a box behind some old luggage. Brenda hadn't thrown them out like she claimed. She'd just hidden them to hurt me and erase my mother's memory from the house. Taking those drapes down, dusting them off, and hanging them back up in the living room was the ultimate closure. For the first time in 4 years, the house finally feels like home again. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Enjoy the apartment, Brenda. Before the moving truck even left, Brenda tried to make a play for my dad's financed pickup truck, claiming it was her right as his widow. She had hidden the keys, but she didn't realize that the vehicle loan was entirely in my dad's name and paid through our joint account, which I had already frozen. When the bank's repo crew showed up right alongside her moving van because she had refused to make the payments, she threw an absolute tantrum on the sidewalk. Watching her watch his beloved truck get hoisted onto a flatbed while her own belongings were crammed into a budget rental was poetic justice at its finest. The absolute best part of this entire saga, though, came a few days later when my attorney sent over the finalized court execution details. In a twist of pure, unadulterated karma, it turns out the cramped two-bedroom apartment Brenda was forced to rent is located in a complex owned and managed by my late grandparents' commercial real estate portfolio. The very portfolio that funds my trust. Because her rental application flagged her recent court-ordered eviction, she had to pay a massive triple security deposit just to get approved. Now, a portion of the $1,200 rent she is struggling to scrape together every month literally goes right back into the trust that funds my lifestyle.